how I see schizophrenia and psychosis. I have never been diagnosed schizophrenic. I'm sure if I went to a mental health clinic and shared with them a lot of the experiences that I've had, there'd be a fine line between consciousness and what is deemed or seen as crazy, or, obviously professionals wouldn't use that term, but ultimately, I did have an experience wherein I was helping clear an entity from somebody that I cared very much about. And because I cared very much about this person, there was a moment when I basically had a moment that was like, pick on someone your own size. Get off of her. There's no way that I'm going to leave here while this is going on. And the mistake that I made, because I was not as well trained then as I am now, was that I didn't fully connect this entity, this being, to the light and on to its next evolution. So I ended up taking this thing home with me. I went out a couple days later. I felt it. I was aware that this thing was in my field of awareness. I went out a couple days later, and at this point I was kind of going back and forth between drinking and not drinking. And so I was like, okay, I'll have a drink. Well, that drink turned into another drink, which turned into a third drink because I needed to silence the voice that told me I shouldn't be drinking. And I ended up having an experience where I don't remember all of the details of the evening. I actually had a very wonderful night, but there was a little window where things were a little bit foggy. And what happened when I woke up in the morning was that I realized that I had fully let this thing come into my ecosystem. This was the last time that I ever drank. And so there was a very intense experience over those next 3 days where I was very conscious that there was a being in my field that was bullying me. I was very conscious and clear on how I ended up letting it in, and I knew where it came from. So I had to call in the big guns. I had to call in my first mentors that taught me how to do this stuff. And I also had to have a second session with some in-person people there. This was when I was living in LA, that helped me to fully clear this thing out of my system. And it was probably the most dramatic type of exorcism that I had in my life experience. And it was not pleasant to go through, but ultimately it taught me how to actually unwind and get yourself out of these situations. So I want you to know that everything is reconcilable.